We're keeping our focus this morning. The Electoral Act amendments, as we've seen, just happened and just a wash all over the papers this morning. And to help us understand better that new development is a legal practitioner, Chukwuma Eziela. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you.
This is what we have now. The Senate has passed an electoral amendment bill, set campaign finance limits, and some of the concerns of Mr. President, why he did not assent to the bill, according to this new amendment, have been addressed. How do you view this?
I think the Senate has done the right thing, and we are progressing. The amendments of the Electoral Act had started since 1999 when we had the first one till date, when we are looking at amendments that can help us, one, reduce the finances, two, eliminate or reduce rigging to the barest minimum. But it remains to be seen how the operators will go into it. For instance, when you talk about the financing of elections, who is going to monitor it? How is it going to be monitored? You know, what penalties? So it's not, for me, it's not really about making laws. It's also about thinking of the implementation of the laws. I think that's the area we must also look at. Yes.
So when we have to look at the campaign finances, I think our producer, there we have it, just across the screen there. That's what we have for the campaign spending limits that is being approved now. For the presidential, it's 5 billion. For governorship, 1 billion. For senatorial, 250 million. And for House of Reps, 150 million naira. Has this in any way helped to contain how much spendings there are when we come to those different levels of offices for the political space?
And this is where the problem is. How do you monitor it? Like, and from what time do you monitor it? You know, it ought to be throughout the system. That is even from the primaries. And today we still hear that some people during the primaries, money exchange hands, whether in terms of bribing to get the tickets. Some people said 50 million, some people said 100 million, some people said 300 million, you know, to get either the gubernatorial ticket or to get any ticket for that matter. Now, but the question becomes, what will they, because we have been having campaign limits funding, they only increased it. This is not the first time it's coming. Like you will see, they retained that of the presidency for 5 billion. Not that it has not been there, but what has never been there is monitoring and the prosecution of defaulters. And I think that is also another area. They just increased it to say, let's see, since it has always been observed in default, they increased it to see whether it's possible to. But then...
Well, it may be too early to say that because the EFCC is working in partnership too with INEC, of course, to try to see that people don't go beyond the stipulated amounts.
Yes, the EFCC, but remember the INEC is the chief monitor. That is one. Facilities it has, I don't know. Now, but if EFCC is around, what is the preliminary report after the party primaries? Because, like I said, these things have been there. Do they have a committee in EFCC that looks at it? And if they have, what preliminary report do they have after the primary elections? Because ordinarily, after the primary elections, if the preliminary report says that some candidates have spent more, then it's also a ground to say, oh, you may be disqualified, not by the EFCC, but by going to court to present how the person must have exceeded the limits. And then the people ought to know what has happened. If you look at America and then the spendings, they take them to court. And when you take them to court, you'll be able to say, this is what the person has done. So if EFCC is monitoring, what have they done till date? And that is where we should look at. If we don't look at it that way, then we may be going into an effort in futility.
So what do you expect from the EFCC now?
No, what I expect from them now is to compile interim reports and possibly to start prosecuting those that have exceeded the limits in court, before the February elections. And
so the APC just went through their primaries, and it seems to suggest that a lot of people, aspirants, are aggrieved from the process, in that process that happened, especially for so many states. And one of the grievances that they have is that why allow us to buy these forms at such exorbitant rates when you're going to end up with a process that has got so many questions to be answered.
First is even to look at the amount of money being collected from them. Was it justified? I think it's exclusionary, because it will exclude those that want to contest these elections or that want to participate in the process. So it is exclusion, so it is wrong in itself. However, beyond that, somebody pays for the form. There should be a rule on whether the person is qualified. Somebody should know whether he's qualified ab initio or not. You don't collect money from somebody and now say, oh, you are disqualified. That is also wrong. That's why you have the problems in both Adamawa, Zamfara, and in places where money was collected, and those people were not allowed to participate in the process. So I think the courts should, at this stage, come in to help to say, no, this is wrong. All of us are equal joiners of a political party. It doesn't belong to anybody. It doesn't belong to the chairman. It doesn't belong to the National Working Committee. And then we also have the constitutional rights, which is guaranteed, right to association, freedom of association. So we have those rights, and I think that the courts should be able to do something concerning those exclusionary processes, not just in APC. You also have it in APGA. APGA, we understand in many of their states, did not conduct primaries. They just selected people, which is also wrong.
So much to say about our political process for what we're looking at. But let's come back to the amendments and look at some of the key areas where that were amendments, especially to do with the card reader. If we can have that slide come through. The card reader, very, very important. How does this now change the dynamics, do you think, if any, now that the card reader has been legalized?
Oh, no, this is a great innovation. I'm hoping that INEC will not bungle the system. Because if they bungle the system, there's going to be a great fallout and a great problem. We know that even in the last elections, where there is only one state, the card readers in some places did not function. Now the question becomes, the people that are administering these elections, either they don't test it ahead of time. So if in Ekiti or in Osun State, the card reader, in one election where they could just get less than 30,000 card readers, because in each of those places you have less than 5,000, to deploy. So if it's not working, how do you now intend to deploy in 120,000 station polling booths? So I think we should really be more careful with INEC. Look at what they are doing. I'm not saying they're not trying to do their best. Is it issue of funding or is it issue of negligence? Can there be test cases? So I am happy that in one of the amendments it said that when the logo is not functioning or when a party's name is omitted, that the person responsible will be fined 2 million naira. Now, what of the issue of when the card reader is not reading as a result of negligence or as a result of them not being agile?
No, this is what they said.